Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5, 6, who can still remember, it's been a while. Regardless, Smoking Guns are back, baby, we're back in business. And today, as you can see, we have a guest, Dan Weber from Furthest From the Sea.
Hello.
Hey.
We're going to be talking with him today about his experiences as a performer, his experiences with programming other performers, with creating festivals. It's going to be a great episode. The best, I would say. Everyone loves it.
It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be amazing.
Gonna make a wall.
Just to address it now, the room we're in it is very echoey, and
You might
you're
mess
gonna
up
have to
with
deal
the
with it.
sound.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be good.
But you
If
want
not-
our beautiful faces to look at, so
Yeah.
that's something.
If not, we'll redo it again next week. So let's get into it. Dan, you are a performer.
I am indeed, yeah.
You are a spoken word artist.
Yeah,
You have your own company,
yeah.
and you do 1,000 projects on the side.
You have a spoken word night.
Yeah, I
Derby.
do indeed, yeah.
Tell us a bit about everything, and then we'll zoom in.
Okay, cool. So I've been working in Derby and East Midlands for the past 15 years, doing various things, acting, writing, producing, directing, running spoken word nights. I think the thing is, as we touched on, and we'll sure we'll touch on later on as well, it's the idea that lots of little things make one big thing. So you mentioned about doing 1 day a week at the minute and trying to build that up. So the idea is that the 2 days I do it Furthest From the Sea, and the 1 day I do for me, and the other days do for other people, makes a full-time job.
Yeah.
Actually over a full-time job, but that's a separate conversation.
So you are basically the definition of self-made.
I don't know. Ooh, what does self-made mean?
In the sense of like, you make your own success happen. You know, you don't sit and wait for somebody else
Oh,
to
yeah,
give you
definitely.
a job. You are the person that will go and make their own night.
Yeah.
Will make their own company, will make those opportunities happen for themselves. So you are self-made, you know?
Yes,
You
I'll
work,
take that.
yeah, that's a kind of like, we last week, or no, a couple of weeks before, and we're talking about the agent and the role of the agent in an acting career. And I wouldn't take away from somebody being self-made with the help of an agent, but it's a different kind of playing field.
Yeah.
So when meeting you all these years back, you know, I already had that impression of you
Yeah,
being
yeah.
self-made, and that'd be lovely to kind of touch into when did that kind of start for you? When were you wanting to move away from saying, okay, I'm going to wait for this audition to happen, I'm going to wait for this to happen, to going to say, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to start that, I'm going to make this happen for myself. So I'd be just really interested in how that kind of like train of thought came to you.
Yeah. Well, really, it started when I dropped at university. So I left Derby Uni after a few months and just kind of realised that as much as uni's fantastic for certain people, it wasn't going to work for me. So rather than sort of waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the audition, I'm a big believer in if you want to make something happen, you've got to do it yourself. So it was a case of knocking on doors, sweeping stages. And you say self-made, and I appreciate your comment, but for me, it's not only me that's done this. This is 15 years work of graft, but also being in the right place at the right time and working one's bottom off and working with certain organisations. And it's I always say it's not about what you know or who you know. It's about who you know and how you work with them.
Yeah.
So you can know everybody in the world. You can have really good connections and contacts. You don't use them, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm also really, really stubborn, which helps. So if I want to do something and I'm able to, 9 out of 10 times I'll do it. And that's what I like about Furthest From the Sea, because even though you know yourself, Arts Council funding is fantastic, big lottery funding is fantastic, money when you can get it, funding when you can get it, but we're very much in the mindset that if we put an application and they're unsuccessful, we will do it regardless as much as we can. So rather than saying, okay, we want to do this, we haven't got the funding, we can't do it, we'll stop, we'll say, we really want to do this, we can justify it as an organisation, so how do we make this work either with less budget or more funding in kind or you know through collaboration with organisations, businesses and other groups.
You were touching on Furthest From the Sea, and just coming back to that and what that is very interesting, because I don't know if all the viewers know about Furthest From the Sea, but yeah, taken back from the self-made, I understand it's the people around you that you surround yourself with that help you get to that point, you know. And that's a really good comment as well, because I think like individually we all are self-made, but we individually help ourselves to our strengths to
definitely.
get to that point that we want to get to. But yeah, if you just could have touched on Furthest From the Sea.
Yes.
How would you define it? Yeah, how would you define the
What's
word?
the tagline?
Because
So
it's so multi-use.
Yeah.
yes, so Furthest From the Sea is an arts organisation based in Derby. We've ran for the last 6 years and I've been on board for the last 5 as the events coordinator. So Furthest From the Sea aims to showcase and celebrate the diverse Derbyshire art scene. So that's kind of the strapline, if you want a strapline. So basically, we provide opportunities for artists in the area to perform in Derby and Derbyshire, but also across the country. But the main focus, as I said, is to showcase and celebrate what's going on in the city and the Shire, because, you know yourself, people, it's that hometown thing, which I'm becoming more aware of. People don't always necessarily look on their doorstep what's going on. So things like Fest Day, for instance, fantastic events in Derby. Some people, I remember last year I was at Fest Day and this chap went, "What's this then?" And I was like, "It's ran for the last 11 years. It's Derby Fest Day." Yeah,
the dragon's walking down.
Yeah, they just didn't know. And I think people are guilty to an extent of not realising all the stuff that happens on their doorstep. Me especially, I remember I went to Derby Museum for the first time about 4 years ago when a friend of mine came to visit for Christmas. And I said, "Oh, we'll go to the museum." And it's amazing, loved it, but I didn't realise what was. I'd never been in some local lab. So Furthest From the Sea aims to showcase and celebrate, as I said, by providing opportunities for artists, for theatre makers, comedians, dance troupes, choirs. So it's artist development, it's opportunities. We produce 2 festivals a year, so we do the Furthest From the Sea Festival in June every year, and that's run, so it'll be the 7th Furthest From the Sea Festival next year, and we do Letter Letter Course, which is a 3-day new writing and mental health theme festival in May as well. So.
Yeah, we've worked with you, we've
Yeah,
participated in one festival. With a show that we're already working on. We got funding from you to make a street theatre show that was absolutely incredible, and we've never had money to just create theatre, which was an unbelievable opportunity for us. So how would you define yourself then? What's when you shake someone's hand, you say Dan Weber.
What's the elevator pitch?
Exactly. What order is everything in?
I'm a man of many hats. So depending on who I meet and where and how, I will introduce myself differently. So normally, even though I'm one of the directors now, I always say events coordinator at Furthest From the Sea, or FFGS Events, which is our commercial side, just because that's a bit more obvious. Director's a great title, but it kind of in what capacity, what sense. So events coordinator, I'm the guy who coordinates the events. Bish bash bosh. If I'm talking to certain people, I also happen to mention that I'm an actor, writer, producer, spoken word artist. Get all the business cards out. Yeah. And no, you're right. They depend. Like I said, it's earlier. It's how you meet someone, what you want from that meeting. I mean, I had a great chat with In Good Company last week, in fact, and went as Furthest From the Sea. Had a really good chat, and actually said, as an artist, can we arrange another meeting? I'll have a quick 5-minute chat while I'm doing the spoken word show. So I think. Elevator pitch is very important, but again, it's being very clear when you do meet someone, regardless if it's arranged or not, of saying, "Oh, Furthest From the Sea, we're an arts organisation based in Derby. We support and celebrate Derbyshire creativity." You know, Dan Weber, spoken word artist, writes about love, life, and relationships. It's having a tagline, but also I'm waffling now, but the key is not to waffle as well. So defining me, I say spoken word artist now, but 4 years ago I would have said probably actor, writer, producer, dipping into comedy. As I said before to all of you, I think the spoken word thing came quite late. So even though I might be mid-career as an event coordinator, whatever the hell that means, as much as I hate that phrase, and I'm still classed as an emerging artist, as a spoken word artist, which I even hate even more, because they're weird. I mean, I said the other day, it's just how do you? So if you're emerging, when do you become the butterfly?
When have you emerged?
You know, and it's funny you were saying off the mic about mid-career artists. I applied for 2 things recently, and I luckily got them both. But one called me a mid-career performer, and one called me an emerging artist, with the same application, with the same information, with the same stuff, the same show, near enough. So
I feel like sometimes as business people trying to understand the arts, definitely with these terms, because for an application or for other things, they need to kind of like classify things. And I feel like that's how a business person would look at an artist and go, "You've done so many gigs. You're midterm. You can support yourself. That's what makes you to a mid-career artist. You've not established yourself. That's why you're emerging." And I feel like these kind of terms, but they can be quite toxic to artists as well.
Well, the show is called Genre Fluid because it's a show about labels in the arts, in life, and in the LGBT community. Because it's 3 years of touring and writing and performing spoken word and poetry, and people going, "How do you define it, or what do you do, or what box do you fit in?" And the whole show's come about because of things like toxic phrases like mid-career and emerging, because as good as they are to an extent, they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And if you set out to do this, it's how you class your own success should be marked by you, not someone on the outside going, "Oh, you're there because of that."
Of course.
So.
Yeah. Well, you have mid-career, you have emerging, do you have end career? Would it be disrespectful to call Ian McKellen end career? It would, definitely. So, these labels are definitely not as productive as as they could be if they came from the artists themselves.
Yeah.
I think it's just about how you use them and why you use them, more importantly. You know, if you've got an opportunity for an emerging artist and you class that, say, as someone who's, you know, if it's this funding available for somebody who's worked for, say, less than 3 years, who is 18 to 26 and they're classed as emerging, that's fantastic. But if you box that down too much or exclude people because of it, like I said earlier, like, I've done spoken word for nearly 4 years, so technically I'm still emerging, but I'm 31, so I should be mid-career because I'm mid-career doing that. So if Ian McKellen started dog grooming tomorrow, he'd be an emerging dog groomer, even though he's been doing theatre for about 120 years, bless him. So
it's about the saturation of the market, and I feel like I come back to that all the time with the podcast, is how saturated the performing arts are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're 19 or if you're in your 60s, there's loads of you or people like you who are in this market. And I feel like, again, it comes back to like, how do we not restrict people from being able to take part in these opportunities? And is that why we title them? Or is it so we give people a wider chance to apply? But I feel like sometimes that even restricts people because, you know, you have a lot of younger artists who are necessarily identify as male or are then white and then are restricted because the area are just looking for people who are BAME or other things, you know. So it is always kind of like two-sided sword, you know, because you want to include everyone. We had this conversation last time with the diversity. You want to include everybody, but that kind of causes an exclusion of other people.
Yeah, unfortunately, and it's important those kind of, you know, BAME festivals are, and BAME opportunities are, and LGBT festivals and opportunities are the same thing. You're always going to exclude someone. You cannot, the idea of being all-inclusive is lovely, but if you become all-inclusive, you're going to let people fall by the wayside. If you become too niche and too small to say, right, you know, that opportunity is only open to, you know, one-legged butchers from Alfreton, you are, and I mean, some of them do feel, I don't know about you, but some of them feel that niche, and that's to me. So you're never going to be able to please everyone all the time. You're never going to get an opportunity open to everybody, unfortunately. But I think what's really important, and what Derby Theatre are doing very well, actually, just to plug the theatre we're in, just very, very quickly, is getting people in through the door who maybe haven't stepped in a theatre before. They've still got a lot of work to do, don't get me wrong, and I'll completely stand by that. But in terms of just getting people through the door, through the youth theatre, through the +1, through the community stuff, they're doing incredible work.
And the thing that we love about Furthest From the Sea is the fact that when we applied for a show, we applied with the show we wanted to make. You didn't say it has to be about this and this and this. No, you just said a comedy show. Suitable for roaming theatre, for street theatre. And we went, well, we have this idea. We think this is funny. If you think this is funny, that's great. Yeah,
because that's one of the ways we showcase. It'd be pointless for us to say, right, there's a bursary going, but we're going to tell you what to do, because that's not what's about. We aim, and this is why I think, you know, Furthest From the Sea, everyone involved in the organisation, our background is performers. So first and foremost, we're a group of artists. So the idea of saying, right, we've got an artist bursary scheme available, but it's only for people looking to do what we want to do, doesn't work. No. And as a creative, as an audience member as well, I'd much rather hear, especially Derby companies, what you're coming up, what you're doing, because otherwise, what's the point? We can't say we're showcasing and celebrating, you know, what's going on in the area if we're restricting opportunities by what you're producing. This is why we try and help everyone we can. You know, it's why we do folk festivals, comedy festivals. It's because it allows avenues for performance and development for other artists, not just, you know, theatre makers or comedians or dancers.
Because there's a diverse range of arts in every community.
It's why I love the job, because I think I've said it before. Every day I meet a new artist or a new group or a new, you know, choir or what I didn't know about the day before, and they've announced some acts for the Derby Live Christmas light switch on, and 3 of them I've never heard of, and I'm like, right, who are you? Where have you come from? Why are we not aware? Because that is the job. You know, I said it. We are aiming to showcase everybody if we can. And part of the job is we should know what's going on in the city and who's doing what in the city, and know what's being worked on in the city.
That's amazing. And in our minds, at least, you are a staple of the city, and you have become synonymous with the arts in Derby, in our opinion, at least. Because you do make festivals and they work out. And I imagine just how it feels like going through town and just seeing things popping out for free. It's like, the only time I got that was in Las Vegas, and it was just like a special celebration, something. I was like, this is unbelievable. How is this possible? And then to have the same things happening in your own town.
It is the most rewarding yet the most stressful job I've ever had. And I think, to put my other hat on, my commercial hat on, we did an event for Luton Bid over the summer, and we had 100 school children, secondary school age, playing music. We had the Luton Youth Orchestra perform with us on this massive market square outside the mall in Luton, and there was about 60 of them, and they played for an hour, and it was incredible. They played everything from classical music to big band stuff to the Doctor Who theme, and what was nice is everybody who was going about their day, shopping, eating, whatever, stopped and went, bloody hell, that's good. And they stood there, and all of us stood there for a good, 45, 55 minutes, just going, good God. And that's the bit I like. It's when you can get that reaction or get that, and again, provide the opportunity for local young performers to say, right, we're really good, let's come and play.
And I feel like that is something that I love about Furthest From the Sea, and I feel like something that has helped us in the development as people and as a company, because we hit a wall early on in our creation where we just felt like nobody wanted to hear from us.
Yeah.
There was no emails being answered. There was no real access into any form of further development. So we had our fancy degrees. We had everything. We had everything set up. We had a name. We had a logo. We had these cool ideas, but nobody was looking, or nobody kind of like, it felt like that. And then I think we went so broad. We wanted to go to London. We wanted to go to Manchester. We wanted to just like escape that kind of like fear of not wanting to be recognized.
Yeah.
Instead of then looking at what are the local art communities, where can we actually showcase our work, where do people want to see our work. And that was a really, really nice moment with the piece that you commissioned from us, to just know somebody cares.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like with young artists in the area, that is more important than them performing, is knowing that somebody cares.
Yeah, and I think, again, one of the things we try and do with our events is we don't do open mics, but we do a lot of showcase stuff. So, when we started out, probably maybe 30% of the performers doing stuff with us were, college or uni students. I remember talking to someone a couple of years ago, his first ever gig was with us on Derby Marketplace, and he was terrified by this really formal meeting. He was absolutely bricking it, bless him. And he's now he's doing a master's in Manchester in music management. So it's nice to see more on the music side than others, I'll be honest at the minute. But
we had an intruder. But that's all right. The show must go on.
We're saying too much. But no,
they're trying to shut us
down. As I was saying, the nice thing is that you get to see that progression. You get to see people who you met sort of 17, 18, 19, 3 or 4 years ago, who have now got albums out. They've got singles out. They're in bands. I mean, I always mention Coffee Breath, singer-songwriter from Derby. We met him when he was about 17. He's now in a band in Birmingham who are doing really well for themselves. So they're kind of one of the ones we love.
And you feel that, don't you? Then
yeah, because it's not only down to us, but it's.
We were there at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can see sometimes you know if you see something good. I was at a comedy night the other night, and they had about 12 acts on, and 2 of them were really, really good. Not to say the others weren't, but 2 of the comedians were really good. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get their information and keep an eye on them, because I think maybe a year down the line I'd look at booking them for Leicester or Nottingham.
Yeah. And that's the kind of people that you need to go around the world, to basically look out for these people and give them those opportunities. And I remember how this all started, with a funny show called Translating that we're still working on. And the Maypole, that's where it all started in our second year at university, and it just makes me smile and bring out such lovely memories, because I'm meeting you for the first time, we met in the Maypole, and we had this chat, and I felt so official. I felt like a working actor in that moment, and I feel like that kind of environment really helped us in our development, because we felt like this was not a uni show, this was not something students did, this was professional.
Well, as a young artist, it almost like legitimizes you, doesn't it?
Exactly. If you have someone who treats you like you're a real artist, you're going to become a real artist. So for that, we can thank you, and I'm sure loads of other artists feel the same. But just because I like to see how quickly you can change hats, I'm going to go back to the way you introduced yourself. So you said spoken word artist who makes work about love, life, and relationships.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so it's a bit of a cliche, but I went through a really messy breakup about 4 years ago, and I found that writing about it just helped. It's really cliche. I know
I've never heard of that.
I know. I felt awful doing it, but I said at the same time, through kind of the job, I started on Twisted Tongues just as a punter.
Yeah.
Because I thought I've not been before, see what's happening. And then someone bought me a double Jack Daniels one night and said, "Oh, you should do something." So I probably down.
What is Twisted Tongues?
Twisted Tongues is Derby's freshest spoken word night. It takes place every last Tuesday of the month at the Old Bell Hotel. It's one of 5 incredible nights in Derby.
You created cactus.
Yes, of course. Yes, good God, we're so sorry about creating cactus.
That's Fatih's spoken word persona for everyone watching.
Oh, it's nice because we do get. What's nice, it is spoken word, but we get people like James Hately comes up and tries new character stuff. And, Squeezing the Tree, Sam from Derby Uni, who's had about 5 different personas and names now, bless him. But so I went Twisted Tongues as a punter, see what was going on, and then sort of went up on stage, did a poem, got a good reaction, and then just started writing maybe one new piece a month to do at the night without the intention of doing anything else. My background, I said, is theatre and comedy primarily, so yes, it was a performance.
I'm not allowed to be a poet as
well.
well.
I hadn't thought about it. It hadn't, I'd not done poetry. I did a little bit while I was younger, but nothing serious, nothing sensible. So started writing something once a month just to sort of get up and have a go, and then from that did a show at the Maypole, which was called Project 28, which was about surviving the 27 Club, and then the new show now is called Genre Fluid, which is all about this kind of labels and the importance of labels. But I've been very lucky, but again, it's, as you said about performing locally, I got in the habit of when I was getting sort of headline slots and featured slots, I was performing Derby, Nottingham, Leicester, Birmingham, Derby, Nottingham, Leicester, Birmingham, doing the same stuff maybe once a week or once another week, but saying, this is really good, I'm getting bookings here, they're enjoying it, but is this stuff good in London? Is this stuff good in Edinburgh? It's not easy, that's the wrong phrase, but you can, if you're not careful, fall very quickly and very easily into the, I'll do stuff into what I'm a mate, so I'll do stuff I know that'll work here. Yeah. So about 2 years ago I said, I know I've got this show behind me, I've had a bit of success with it, I know what I want to talk about and what I write about, but I want to know, is it funny in London? So I went, I got on the train, did an open mic night in London, was seen, got a headline slot in London, which was amazing. Did the same with Edinburgh, booked a few days up there, got a show, but also said, right, as I'm there, I'm just going to get on as many compilations as possible and do the same stuff, but say, okay, right, this works here, does it work there? And if it doesn't, why not? Because, the whole point for me, it's like a success thing. I don't care about success in terms of, book releases or awards. I want to just keep doing it. So success for me, or mid-career, whatever you want to say, is the fact that people are still saying, hi Dan, can you come perform your poetry here?
Working.
Yeah, exactly. And that to me is
not doing a second or third job.
Doing
something else.
And for artists, I think that's happiness, really, just getting work done.
Like we were saying off mic about Wednesdays being Smoking Guns days, and I feel like this is the start for us, is being able to say Wednesday is where we work on the company, and that's happiness, being able to have at least one day where you don't have to wear 5 different hats, but you do what you love doing.
That's a great way of looking at it. You have days for each different project, and they all advance together. They don't advance as quickly as they would otherwise, but that you're always on that ladder going up.
It just means you can kind of obviously just arrange things better, but also if you've got that time dedicated, like Wednesday Smoking Guns Day, you have that as sacrosanct, this is that day, and it makes you get things done. I mean, Friday for me is poetry day, so I will sit and apply for, different schemes or different kind of mentorship stuff, or try and get some bookings, or just sort of email out and say, I'm going to be here on this night, any gigs going, or I'm going to be here, or I've not done that night, who runs that night, where do I get on that gig from? So it's a similar thing.
That's a great
It's
mentality.
all just spreading the word.
So for an emerging, I'm going to put comedian and spoken word artist together just because from the performance type, they are quite similar.
Well, this is the thing with the show, because I mean the reason it's called Genre Fluid is because I did an LGBT drag cab. I got booked for a drag cabaret night in London, which was amazing. But I turned up and I was just like, are you sure? Yes, it's fine. We've seen this stuff, it's really good. So there was sort of these 5 incredible sort of Glamazonian drag artists getting ready, and me in a t-shirt and jeans and a dressing room kind of going, I'm not sure about this. It went down really well, and I had a really good night. But one of the reasons the show came about is because the compere off stage had a go at me, because he was like, you're not a comedian, what are you doing here? We booked a comic, you're not a comedian. And I've been to other nights where people are going, you're not a poet, you're a comedian. So that whole thing about depending on perception and how you are, it's, so you can bill it as comedy, spoken word together, but it's hopefully a lot more than that. I had a conversation the other day with someone who said, we don't really do comedy shows, and I was like, I'm not a comedian, spoken word, please book me, I'm not a comedian, I'm not a comedian.
But for all the comedians and the spoken word artists, how would they go about starting their career the way you did? So maybe, I know you didn't start this right after uni, but 4 years ago, I understand you started with Twisted Tongues, but afterwards do you just phone up places? Do you just
Kind of. So basically, as I said, Twisted Tongues and other nights like it, and local nights especially, are a great way of meeting people, networking, and trying things out. So the main reason Twisted Tongues exists was kind of an open mic spoken word night to allow people to try new things. So we don't have headliners, we don't kind of do feature slots. We just have everyone gets 5 minutes or 2 poems on the mic. Thank you very much. Go away again. So for me, I think there's a lot to be said in doing kind of the open mic comedy stuff, the open mic poetry stuff. There's a lot of gong shows in Derby which are great, but they're not really the mic mentality for first.
What are those?
So gong shows like a comedy competition. So if you're bad, you get gonged. If you're good, you stay on. And they're fantastic, and there's a place for them. But for a first-time
very
performer,
competition,
exactly, yeah, it's like poetry slam, same kind of
Yeah.
thing. So slams are judged poetry competitions. So I think while there's loads of them and there's a place for them, for me it's the open mic. It's the kind of safety, I suppose, of just be feeling comfortable in the room. And like I said, for me, just started going Twisted Tongues, started falling into, or just becoming aware actually of what else is going on. Nottingham and Derby especially have got really strong poetry scenes at the minute.
Yes.
So rather than just going to Twisted Tongues, I would go Twisted Tongues and go, right, okay, where do you go? Or, oh, you run that, tell me about that night. So there's stuff like Poetry is Dead Good in Nottingham, there's crosswords, there's all these really good nights. And I've said to you all before, what's nice about Derby is we're about an hour away from many places.
Yeah.
So you can go Birmingham, Coventry, Nottingham, Leicester, Sheffield, Chesterfield. For a touring theatre company, that's really handy. But again, for me, because poetry, it's me on the train. So I can jump on the train or jump on public transport and be there in half an hour, do an open mic set or put my name in the hat to go on the open mic. Hopefully then talk to the person who run the night, go, actually enjoyed that, I've got a bit more, you can book me, send stuff on. It is just for me about talking to people and also, like I said, being in the right place at the right time. So Trudy Howson is the LGBT Poet Laureate, and one of the reasons I got to work with her is because she announced she was hosting an open mic in London. I think it was LGBT History Month a couple of years ago, and I said, right, I'm going to go down, I'm going to go to that night, I'm going to get on that open mic, come hell or high water, I'm going to do 2 poems and go, hello, you don't know me, but if you like my stuff, book me, and she did.
Nice.
So I know it's not that easy, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say it's easy.
No.
Of course there's a
You still have to be really good at it.
Yeah, exactly, but
And
the
you
thing
have
is,
the courage as
it's
well.
easy for me to sit there and go, oh yes, I just got to the train to London, because it's not I can afford that, but it's easy for me. So it's not about the financial, it's about making the most of what you've got. There is nothing wrong with spending 6 months doing every open mic in Derby and honing some stuff. And if you see people, Michael McIntyre on the telly, Frankie Boyle, I'll talk about him in a second, these people have honed that 20-minute routine for 3 or 4 years. Frankie Boyle said that if you put a joke on YouTube, you lose the joke. So I've always been very cautious about not putting too much online, and so because you do lose that routine, that section. But unfortunately, social media, as you will know yourself, it's the best way for people to see you en masse.
Yeah.
And it's that toss-up between, I've got really good stuff I want to protect, and I want to make sure if you want to see me, you buy a ticket and you see the show. But on the flip side, it's, you can have 20 people in a room, or you can have a couple of thousand hopefully on YouTube or
On
social media, who will come
Yeah.
and hopefully buy a ticket on the back of that.
I don't know if you're aware of Bert Kreischer. He's an American comedian.
Okay.
He does a routine called The Machine.
Yeah.
And this routine has been on YouTube for the last 3-4 years maybe. And every single show he does, they shouted at him.
Yeah.
They shout,
They
do
want it.
Exactly.
the machine.
Exactly.
Do the machine. This like 10 to
Yeah.
15 minute routine, and he does it at the end of every show. That's like Aerosmith singing "I Don't
Yeah.
Want to Miss a Thing"
But
at the end
see,
of every show.
On the other side of that, I remember meeting you early on, and one of you said, you're the threesomes and cats guy. Because I did a poem about threesomes and cats, do you remember?
Oh.
And I hate that poem now because
Oh,
I
God,
used
I love that
No,
poem.
well, it's that thing, I know, but that's the thing, everyone was going, do the threesomes and cats poem. And I was like, no, I'm a serious performer, I don't just do funny jokes about threesomes. But everyone was going, oh, Dan's the threesomes and cats guy. And I was like, yes, I am. But I want you to realise that there's lots more. There's 3 shows of
I had
material
that.
apart from that.
Maybe that's the
I had that a
spoken.
lot with the spoken word artist thing when I started, and I just did the stuff as party.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I want to do cactus stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had like 2 poems. I had How My Name Is Cactus. And that's just, I love performing that one. That's why I did it. And it became a routine. But there was the one with a lot of swearing in it. And I had the same introduction, I had the same way. And I did that at like 4 different nights. And then people were like expecting me to do it, and I'm just like super early on in the career. So like, I'm not even like comparing myself to that. But that moment of like, oh, I'm funny. I'm just funny with this thing, and it was a weird moment. You were just like, I don't
So
just want that.
maybe
to
that's the spoken word artist overpowering
I
the
think
comedian.
it's everything. I think it's just if people, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not known for that thing at all. It's just in Derby and Nottingham, because I was doing so many nights, I was doing that piece a lot.
We know of it.
Well, no, because it got a good reaction. It's a safe, I call it my A material. So I have 6 poems, not that anymore, but I've got 6 poems that I think, you know what, if I'm doing a brand new, I'm doing a gig on Saturday and I'm doing 4, I think, of the 6, A material stuff. It's that thing about if you've got a new crowd you don't know or a night you want to make a good impression of, you go back to what you know best, it goes down well.
You play the hits.
Yeah, exactly. And that poem, it's got a very strong opening line, a very funny line at the end. So if nothing else, and also it's a nice way to gauge a room, but if nothing else, it goes down well. And I was doing it too much. But the problem is, if you're trying to do serious stuff or do other stuff, and people go, oh, you're just the funny guy from Derby, do the funny stuff. It's like, I don't feel very funny, I want to talk about mental health or other issues. Or it's very difficult kind of having to go, yes, I know you know that one, but this is the new album, not the greatest hits.
Yeah, and
that's great.
And that's the funny thing, like, I don't know how this feeds in, but I saw Bohemian Rhapsody a couple of days ago about Queen.
Yeah.
And before they made Bohemian Rhapsody, they had a kind of like stylist of songs. And then there's this funny scene with their manager when they tried to make Bohemian Rhapsody, and there's a kind of like argument, and they say, we want to do this. And I feel like that's with young artists, and I feel like with spoken word artists, that's very particular because you build up a stylist, you build up a character, you build up a repertoire of work that you can bring, that you know is good. But then when you suddenly have because you change as artists, you change as people, and you want to change that, you feel like there's a war, and suddenly you feel like that people do not listen to your poetry just because they have that preconceived idea, because it's not funny, because it's not what they think that poets should do.
So when I started doing poetry, I used to take my shoes and socks off.
I was about to ask about that.
Two things. So firstly, because it's a good technique of just about calming down and grounding yourself, but more so Tim Minchin does it, and I'm like, there's a few people I completely God worship. Bill Hicks, Tim Minchin, so that's where it started from. And the reason I don't do it anymore, because this guy over the summer came up after a gig and he said, I didn't hear a word you said, because I was thinking, why is he taking his shoes and socks off? So I've stopped doing that now, because I was like, how many people have sat there and gone, why has he got his shoes and socks off? And never listened to me and just kind of gone, what's the thing with the shoes? So even though that I still get very nervous, I think you have to get nervous for anything you do. I think it's important you get nervous. For me, I would rather lose that comfort blanket of that grounding technique to know that everybody's focusing on me and maybe taking me more serious than have even one person go, why has he got his shoes off? And not listen to me or not appreciate what I'm trying to say because they're looking at something benign.
Yeah.
Good. We're going to keep it there for now. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to ask Dan about advice for the company and how we should proceed, because we have come to the master asking for advice. Thank you very much. We'll be back in just a second. You won't even... And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. So, as we were saying, the thing that you were talking about with not wanting to do your hits is very reminiscent of something happening to us at the moment when we're trying to decide, because we have a couple of projects planned out for maybe the next 7 years. We have plays probably for the next 7 years, and everyone tells us, oh, you should do a play about being a Romanian in the UK. Oh, you should do a play about being a Muslim, Turkish, German studying in the UK. You should do a play about... no, it's just nothing for having.
There's nothing there for a white guy from Derby, is there really?
No, but everyone says do that because the Arts Council is gonna love it.
Yeah,
which once again is like playing your hits. I'm sure if we were to go for funding, those would be more likely to get funding. But when do we get to do the work we want to do?
So take this in the most positive way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Between the three of you tick a lot of boxes. And what I've always liked about you three as an organisation, as a company, is you don't kind of go, right, we're going to play this card, that card, and get X amount of dollar because of it. I've always respected the fact you do what you want to do, because that's what's, as a performer, as an audience member especially, I said this at Derby Uni Slam team yesterday. I want to see people go on stage and bare their heart and talk with passion and tell me what they're passionate about and perform what they want to perform. Not see people walk on stage going, we've got 12 grand from the Arts Council and we're doing this because it gets that and we're doing this because it means we get funding. And I think it's tricky because some organisations do that, rightly or wrongly, it's their decision. But I like the fact that you don't kind of go, right, we'll do the Romania show because we get that and that means that and we'll have that logo on the post and we can do that and the other. You're building up a stronger fan base and working better together because you are doing stuff you're passionate about, which clearly comes across. And it might take you longer, yes, I'm afraid, but if it was me, I'd sleep better at night knowing I've taken that route and done it this way, rather than going, right, I've got my money from the Arts Council and anybody else, but I'm doing stuff I'm not really proud about. I never named names, but there was a great actor, did a couple of shows here, probably about 10 years ago, and I went to see him do a panto somewhere else, and he was awful. So he actually trained Lecoq as well under the conversation. So it wasn't Harry for the record, but just to clarify. So I sort of got friendly with this actor. A few of us went out to see his next show because he was there for a season at the time, and then we saw him do panto, and he was terrible. He was awful, and I said to him, "Why? You know, with the greatest respects." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm just here to pay my mortgage." And that's when I kind of thought, because you have to do that. Don't get me wrong.
No,
but
it's fair. Yeah.
But that's why I was like, that's why I'm so passionate about. Funding is wonderful, money is wonderful, but you have to sometimes go, you know what, if you really want to do this, you're really passionate about doing whatever it is, you've just got to take the leap and do it, because otherwise, what's the point? What is the point?
Have you worked on art projects where your heart hasn't been?
No, because I've purposely not done it. I have in the past. I've sat there and gone, but I'm lucky because it's not about picking and choosing, but one of the reasons I have, the day job is because it allows me to focus on stuff and not have to do, I've done some horrific gigs, don't get me wrong. I've done awful stuff.
What am I doing?
You know what? I used to work with a great company in Birmingham. Got a lot of love for them. They're fantastic. But there was one day we did this like pub theatre thing, and we got changed in the kitchen of the pub, and I just went, "What are we doing? This is ridiculous." I'm not expecting dressing room, but it's that they were sort of serving food around us, and we're kind of getting everything on and putting the makeup on. So I have done some horrific stuff, and now I'm talking maybe from an older head who has more opportunities to an extent. But if you're not passionate about doing it, people will see. That's the thing. It's so obvious on stage when someone's just going through the motions, and that's what I don't like.
Because you can't go through the motions.
Exactly. And people are invested in you. Yeah.
I don't think you can write from a point that you're not passionate about.
Definitely
realistically, not well.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to find that issue that's big in theatre at the moment and then just go, I can kind of write something about that.
Yeah. If you can justify, like I said before. If you can justify what you're doing, I will go with you. Audiences, they're there, they bought a ticket, they're invested. If they're there, they want to see it. People don't get sometimes. If they've come to see you, it's because they want to see you. If you can justify what you're doing, I will go with you 100%. But if for a second I don't think you've justified that, or we have a conversation and you can't tell me why you've done that or why you've picked that, what's the problem? You can't. It's pointless going on stage and doing it. I get very annoyed with, especially directors and producers, who if I call them on something or discuss that and they go, "Oh, well, it's just in the script." I had this conversation with an actor friend of mine. He did a show start of the year, and there was a joke in the show that never landed. It was a script someone else had written, an American script, and it was an American reference. They put in the show, they did it, and it didn't land because they didn't understand the reference. And the audience, and I said to an audience member, what was that line? "Oh, we don't know, it's just in the script." And I was like, well, if that's the case, either bloody do your research or cut it, because that on stage, you could tell no one knew the gag because they just kind of brushed over it and carried on. I hate that kind of thing. It's bane of my life.
But then you have a writer in the room that kind of like demands something to be in, and then you got that kind of like all the politics of a rehearsal room.
Yes.
How beautiful is it, And we all of us have suffered through the politics of a rehearsal room. And I find the older you get, the more relaxed you get to these kind of situations.
And again, it's the way you work together. I mean, I said before, I said off mic, I've had some really ferocious directors, and at the time I hated them, but now, knowing what they taught me and how I've used that for other things, I'm incredibly grateful. And I think it's almost like rose-tinted glasses to an extent, I imagine, but you should be learning from everybody you're encountering, whether that's a 30-second conversation in the lift or this elevator pitch or just like networking nights. You've got to be in the right frame. I hate networking nights, I'll be honest. But if you're in if you're in the right frame of mind, they're great. If you're not, they are the devil.
Yeah.
And I've never gone to one where I haven't met somebody interesting. That's what I've always come away going, okay, I met that person, that was good. But you've got to be in the right frame of mind, because otherwise they are death.
Yeah.
They're absolutely death.
See, I'm never in the right frame of mind. That's why it's Fatih's job.
Yeah.
And we work. If you want to work to your strengths, it's just something that.
And
it's hard.
I don't mind doing them, but I come back to the rights. I had 2 nights where I had to go and pitch 4 of our shows to venues that clearly didn't care.
Yeah.
And we weren't just right for that opportunity. I don't even know how we got the opportunity. It was nice, and I learned a lot from it, but I was terrified and I felt out of place. Like the worst in my life. And I was just like, I was talking to people and they're like, "Oh, so what do you do, and how are you?" And it just never felt like we're talking about art. I felt that was the worst point.
But the worst thing is about that, what we said earlier, if you went in and said, right, we're doing a Romanian Muslim show, unfortunately, because same as other organisations, theatres have boxes to tick.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, without something awful, you do tick a lot of boxes in the three of you, and it's good in a way you're not relying on that. You know, if I thought for a second you'd ever create something just to tick boxes and get money, I wouldn't be sat in this chair talking to you now. So.
Thank you.
Honestly. No, I'm serious. You know, honestly, I wouldn't be here. I know you wouldn't do it, but if I thought for a second, I would be out the door.
No,
with my free water.
We are young artists, and we are at the point in our career where we want to go to the Edinburgh Fringe
You
Festival.
said it. You said the words.
You said the E.
Talk us.
Okay,
to the Edinburgh
so
Fringe Festival.
full
please.
disclosure, I went for the first time this year because I've put it off for far too long. Because there's a mindset, especially in theatre and especially in comedy as well, and it's the wrong mindset, but certain people believe that there's Edinburgh, London, and nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, for the cost of going to Edinburgh, I think I said to you a long time ago, you can do, if you look at Edinburgh costs, which is horrific, you know, I've got a mate there who spends 4 weeks a year.
People.
Exactly, yeah. But it's not only that, the mental health side of it's horrific as well. Another conversation, just as a side note. But you, for the cost of going to Edinburgh for the month, you could probably finance a Midlands tour in studio space theatre.
That's crazy.
I know it's not that black and white, and I know there's people who shout at the screen and go, that's not true, but I think in theory, for the money you will spend in Edinburgh, you could do, you know, Derby, Birmingham, Leicester, Nottingham, Coventry. The annoying thing is, there's no quality control. So I went for the first time, I said it's like London on acid. It's horrific. There is so much going on.
Of theatre.
Exactly. But I've got a really good mate of mine who gave me all this advice. He gave me loads of advice about what to do and what not to do, and I didn't listen to a word of it. And I went up and I was like, I didn't listen to your advice! I'm sorry! I got there and I thought, I'm just going to nip into a show. I'll just nip into a show. And I thought, you know, the first thing I see, I'll go and see. And it was great, don't get me wrong. But because of that, I was late getting into the hostel, so they lost my hostel space. I was late getting to the gig I'd booked already. I was late in the day, I didn't eat. I didn't sleep, and I do a bit in the show about being tired. I remember having this conversation with a guy in a gents' toilet, and it's the start of the show I'm working on now, because he was like, "Are you a comic? What do you do? What do you do?" And I was like, "I'm just trying to urinate." But he was like, "What do you do? What do you do? Tell me about your show." And I was like, "I haven't got a show. I'm just doing compilations. Leave me alone." And it just because
Security.
Like, it was because he was just, and he
Now
was
that's
harmless.
networking.
Exactly, yeah. But I remember just kind of being. Because as soon as you meet, that's not fair, as soon as you meet, every compilation I did, everyone kind of goes, so what are you doing here then? What are you working on? I've got a show, come see my show. And it's as good as it is to meet people, it feels like everyone's got a bit of an agenda.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going, oh, come and see my
If you
thing.
don't
When
see
are
my
you
show,
doing your
I
thing?
will
Come and-"
stop.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't see people, you see advertising opportunities.
Yes, there was a woman, I said never name names, she was alright, she's not my favourite actor, but I was on the bill with her at a late night comedy thing. And she gave flyers to everybody in the audience, all the other acts, everybody, and it was just like, you haven't got to, yes, you need to promote yourself, of course, but there's better ways than going, flyer, dump stuff, flyer.
If anything, that shovel-handed is just going to take you nowhere away.
Exactly, and speaking of flyering, you know yourself, just that whole thing of flyering out and about is the most soul-crushing thing I've ever. I remember there was so my mate did a show, and I was helping them promote, and there was 4 of us stood outside 3 venues, all with flyers, all with shows starting within 15 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And I guess now we're going, anybody want a flyer? Thinking, I'm really sorry because everyone else is there. And it's not, because everyone's very supportive, don't get me wrong, but it's that thing of going, you know, there's 4 people outside here promoting 4 different shows, all starting very similarly, and people are walking past and it is like, well, no, don't go in there, go in here, or no, go in. It's a really
It's
tricky
the theatre
situation.
Hunger Games, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. I like that.
It is
phrase.
literally that. Ed said from non-session when I went there, he said like, beware.
Yeah.
I went in with the wrong mindset. The same. I thought it's gonna be utopia. It's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah.
Everybody's
And
gonna.
dystopia.
Yeah, it's dystopia. And I thought it was gonna be like Burning
Shout out
Man
to make you
kind of
escape.
thing. But I got slapped into reality of. And this is at the end of university where I still had the dreamy mindset of theatre. I got slapped into the reality of money and money in theatre.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is just cruel
The
what
thing
happens to people, their
I
mental
struggle
health
with-
wise.
No, yeah, I remember that. So one of the first shows I saw was a comedy show, and the actor on stage said, every Thursday we meet at 12 o'clock, we have a cup of coffee in a safe space and we talk about mental health and well-being. And I thought it was a joke. I thought it was, and it wasn't. They were saying every Thursday a collection of artists meet in a certain place. If you're struggling, have a cup of tea, have a chat. The thing I struggle with in Edinburgh is that performer sort of industry hat on, because I try to do both. I try to go up and say I'm a performer looking for slots, and also say I'm industry, I want to see stuff, I want to go and see stuff, and I burnt out completely because I was trying to see things I want to see acts I want to book as Furthest From the Sea for this year and next year, but also go up and say I'm also down by the spoken word, I do spoken word, any gigs going. So I think the thing I learned about going next year is trying to go up for maybe 2 weeks and spend a week doing the show, and then a second week with the other hat on, saying we're looking for acts. I saw some great stuff, don't get me wrong, I saw some incredible stuff, saw some awful stuff as well, but some incredible stuff, but it's just, you can't, it's that thing about picking a lane. You cannot go up and say I'm an act and a producer. You've got to pick a lane and do it, because otherwise you get so lost in it.
Sure.
Or
You might get lost regardless.
very true, very true.
So
It's the humour of it as well, that people still think you need Edinburgh and London as young performers. You know, so many people approached you and said, "Oh, I want to do a show in Edinburgh," and it's like, "Oh, I've got the money to do it." And it's like, "Why would you do that? Why would you take all your hard-won money
It's because
and
it's
burn
people. Well, the thing is, it's if you. I mean, okay, Rob Kemp's a great example. He's a fantastic. I think he's Leicester-based comedian. He won a lot of awards last year with the show, and when I saw him this year, saw the new show, and he was sold out. He sold really well.
Yeah.
It is a risk, but I also know companies who go up every year, don't make a dime, but go up because they might get spotted or they might get seen and they might get a couple of gigs out of it. But for me, I want to go up and do it once I've done a show at Edinburgh. That's fine. Anything comes of it, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. But it's just being realistic. And you're right, I think so many young people, especially young people, I'm 31 for God's sake, so younger performers or younger producers, whatever, they rush to Edinburgh, they rush down to London and go, I'm here, I'm in London, oh my God, this is amazing, I'm in Edinburgh, this is amazing, I've made it. But then, as you know, you get there and you go, God, there's 3,500 shows on, and there's 3,500 people flying at you and shouting at you to come and see the show. And I don't think anybody realises till you go just how much choice there is, and you know how many performers are sitting there with 2 or 3 people every day kind of going, please come and see my show, please come and see my show,
or nobody.
Exactly, that's the other thing, there's a lot of shows that just don't get anywhere or don't go ahead, unfortunately.
Oh God.
And imagine that you work a year on a show, you get your parents or somebody else finance and you go up there, and then you have a 2-week run at like a pub or something like that, and nobody turns up.
But that's where the mental health thing comes in, because if you're saying, I've spent 12 months putting everything into this show, and you're just, for whatever reason, not getting people there, it can be really soul-destroying.
If you want to give up on your dream, go do that. That. If you don't know how to give up, that's the way to give up.
I think I've always envisioned it almost like, you get those celebrity stories from, I moved to Hollywood, lived in my car for a year, going to every single audition I could, that kind of thing. I feel like that's almost similar to the theatre version.
Do you know what? I think I would take Hollywood over Edinburgh because you can go work as a barista, you can go work in a restaurant. You might never make it, but time-wise, you have longer than a month.
Yeah.
Imagine having a month that might or might not decide your career.
But it's a baptism of fire, that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's ride or die, you've just got to go. And I think everyone should do it once. I think, don't let us put you off, because it's fantastic. And again, the people I saw, you can't see them anywhere else.
Yeah.
If you discover the right people, you can stumble into a night and see, you can find an act that becomes your favourite act. But you've just got to realise it's not, gold streets and candy floss. It is really rough mentally, and there's a lot of expectation, and God, if nothing else, eat and sleep. So I did a late night cabaret that finished at 3 a.m, and I remember walking through Edinburgh completely zonked because I need to get back to my hostel, and then I got up early to see a little morning show, and I was just like, I can't do this.
That's something you learn. I did that. I had 6 days or like 5 days, I saw 18 shows and tried to go, and that meant that I would see shows till 3 a.m, and then I had to get up really early to see something else. And I was at Queen's College, the university, and I took the train into Edinburgh, which is like half an hour, it's nothing. There's a train station right outside there. But getting there was hard because you had to take a bus after certain hours.
The journey up. So, you're like this. So, the 2 bits of advice I got was make sure you eat and sleep, which I ignored. And I just travelled. So, I got the train up at 4 hours, got into Edinburgh Waverley, and then everyone I was talking to, because I got the National Express back and it was overnight, and everyone was saying, ha! I did that my first year as well. And I'd say, I'm getting the bus back, and they'd laugh and just not say anything else. And I was like, it's fine, I'm going to sleep, it's all good. And then I got on this bus at 9:30 in the evening the day I left, and I got into Birmingham at 6:30 in the morning, having not slept a wink, because I thought, naively, they would say, right, good night everybody, when you wake up we'll be in Birmingham. And of course they stop on the hour, different places, and the bus stops and lights come on, the guy goes, Now we're in, calling into Sheffield, everyone for Sheffield. So I was not getting any sleep, and the most annoying thing about it was the guy next to me slept the whole way, and I was going to kill him because he was so cosy and lovely, and I was like, how are you sleeping? It's ridiculous. So I think it's easy to give advice, not easy to take it granted. But especially for Edinburgh, if you get advice, take it from me. Take it, because oh my god, I just had a horrific sort of journey back. Did you have people giving out shots? Yeah. There's a weird thing. I don't know if this is the mental health thing or the drinks thing or what, but there's a weird mentality of performers having a shot before a show to keep them perked up.
Yeah.
No, I never drink before a gig, I must admit. No, this is common practice.
This is common practice.
You're doing so much. You need that thing to go right. What are we doing?
To perk you, yeah.
Yeah, because you've got to think in Edinburgh, especially you're doing compilation to sell tickets.
Sort of gag things as well. Like it's like a weird thing that happens before the show, after the show. A lot of nudity, things that just happen in Edinburgh.
The first show I went to, they said, "Do you want a shot of whiskey?" And I was like, "It's 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm fine, thank you."
A free shot of whiskey?
Yeah, for the performance. No, just for performance, because it gets perking you up, keeping you going.
Well, Drunk Shakespeare came out of Fringe.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is
what is Drunk Shakespeare, Harry?
So essentially, what they do is they will create a Shakespeare show, but every single night they will choose a different performer, and at any point, the audience can just go shot, and all the performers have to go shot, and that person takes a shot on stage. So essentially, they end up getting worse and worse and more drunk throughout the night.
You buy alcohol, don't you?
Crazy Shakespeare.
But see, with that, and again, this goes back to what Edinburgh is about, because is that theatre? That's voyeurism. That, to me, that's watching there's no quality. There's no. I mean, you could say there's a skill to keep going.
Is it not endurance theatre?
Yeah, but is that what it's about? Isn't it completely? But is that what it's about? If you're going to go to Edinburgh, are you selling tickets because of the quality of your work, or are you selling tickets because one of the cast is going to get pissed and it's funny? That's the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is why we made this podcast, because of questions like that. Because of someone asking the questions that we want.
But also, that's the USP.
Completely.
You've got to think about it. That's the same USP as someone going, we're going to do Homer inside a canoe on the side street.
Completely, but that comes down. Again, I think about justification.
Sure.
Justify that to me as a performer, or even an audience member. Am I going to see a really crafted? If I want to see Shakespeare, do I go and see a really well-crafted Shakespeare piece, or am I only going because I know it's going to be funny because Macbeth's going to get wankered?
Oh, that's a great question. Tell me about Naked Cabaret. Is that something you have encountered yet?
Oh, Naked Cabaret.
So I'm not okay. So
I desperately want to go to a Naked Cabaret.
They're my friends. I've got a very good mate of mine from London who organises one, and he has invited me many times, and I've always said no.
What is Naked Cabaret?
Well, for the spoken word stuff, it's just a night where they perform in the nude.
Just the performers?
Yeah, so no audience. The one I'm talking about I think it's called Naked Tongues, or Boys in the Buff, or Naked Boys, or I can't remember what it's called, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, all the performers perform poetry about sexuality and gender naked. And he's asked me on camera to do it. He's asked me, and I always say no, because for me personally, performing is scary enough as it is without being in the buff. But as an audience member, I find it fascinating because I've seen him perform, and I've seen him start his routine and take clothes off. I've seen him do very intimate poetry about his sex life and his sexuality, and it adds something to it. And I've seen him; he does some great stuff with like visual and projection. But I've also seen audience members really react very negatively, like oh no, it's disgusting. Oh no, it's only the human body. So I think there's a place for it, and I would love to say one day I will do it.
Is that based in Edinburgh?
It should be everywhere. It shouldn't just be Edinburgh. I think. Is it Edinburgh? It's tricky because Edinburgh, you only get a certain amount of person goes to Edinburgh. It's like Departure Lounge to an extent here.
Yeah.
You don't get Mr. Joe Public Derby going to the Departure Lounge to an extent like you don't get Mr. Joe Public going to Edinburgh. A lot of people there are performers or industry or just there.
Yeah, it's filled with industry. Industry for industry. It is literally that.
So that's trying to make
it.
Yeah. So there, it's probably going to be more acceptable and well received in Edinburgh. I'd love to see how it would go down. I imagine maybe Birmingham, Manchester, London would go down very well. I know the London night goes down very well. I don't think it's a night for everybody. No. I think the only way you could spin it, I hate the phrase spin, but the only way you could sell it to an audience is for like a charitable cause. So like like a men's cancer charity, or I think that's a really nice idea of doing like just testicular cancer kind of thing, doing Night in the Buff. Brilliant idea. And there's a meaning, that justification thing again. Mm-hmm. If I went right, and next week in Derby, in the Maypole, I'm going to put on a naked spoken word night, I don't think anybody would come.
I think they would. I think they would, but I feel like...
I think me and you would go, okay.
trying to get naked.
But the one in Edinburgh, the one that we know sold out at least 3 nights in a row, is the one where everyone is naked, so the audience member is included. In order to have that, I believe you must have an audience like
completely. But again, is that justification? Is that voyeuristic thing again? Are they going to an extent to see what's on stage, or are they going because it's the titillation of everyone's going to be naked?
There was a theatre piece, I think, a couple of years ago. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. But it was again one where the audience stripped off as well as the performer, and it was about kind of exposing yourself as an artist, and it was talking about that as a metaphor. So it was bringing it through with the audience.
I think you can
completely.
Yeah. I think you're going to say exactly what I'm going to say.
It's justification. Like there's a well-documented story of an artist in Birmingham about 4 years ago. I didn't see the show myself, I must admit, but he did a show about sexuality, and he shaved his pubic region and masturbated on stage till completion. And everyone I know who came away from that show, completion, yes. I don't even know.
Great. That's why.
But the point I'm making is everybody I know who saw that show said to me, all they talked about was the fact that he wanked off on stage. Not the story or the structure or the lighting or the set. It was just everyone, it wasn't for me, he did that on stage. And I think you're in danger when you are so niche and so voyeuristic to an extent. It's the same with the shoes. To me. People aren't paying attention to what you're saying, what you're trying to say, and what you're trying to get across, because they're all going, we're all naked, tee-hee, or he's naked, tee-hee, or he's doing that. And I think for me, it's more about, especially with spoken word and theatre, it's the words, it's the meaning behind it. Some of the best stuff I've seen has been, one person on stage. I mean, God, I saw a great thing a couple of years ago at Derby, at the Guildhall, Derby Live Guildhall. It was a retelling of Oliver Twist. So Charles Dickens used to do these one-man shows, and it was a retelling of Oliver Twist called Sid and Nancy, and it was one actor playing the whole cast. One costume, 4 chairs, no set, load of lighting. And at the start of the show, he put this plate down on the front of the stage, and we all kind of went, it's a bit weird, isn't it? And then, of course, when he killed Nancy, when he put his head in the plate, and came up just bathed in blood. And it was the scariest thing I've ever seen, because all of us just kind of went, oh shit, it's a really simple idea. But again, to me, that's a lot more interesting, and I want to see more of that, and not, come and see our show because we're naked, or come and see our show because of this.
But I feel like that again is what you find with the marketing in theatre.
Yeah.
And it's that question and then the question is like using a gag for a reason, or using it just for the marketing of it.
Audiences are really stupid, and what I mean by that is, no, they are, because we rehearse and we do things over and over and love it, and they see it once. But the great thing about marketing is, again, this is London, but if you go on the tube, up and down the escalators, if you see all the posters they've got going down those stairs, it's what catches your eye. How do they go? Yes, there's 7 million, but look at ours. And some do it very well, some don't. But unfortunately now, especially with theatre, you've got to get them on the marketing to get them through the door.
Yeah.
I went, that Sid and Nancy show I mentioned, I went to had a really good poster. I thought, I love that poster, I'll go and see the show, it looks interesting. But if maybe I knew more about what it was, or knew the history, I might have been a bit like, I'm not sure about this, because it's a Victorian retelling of a classic text. But the fact that I saw outside the Guildhall this really striking poster, a vision of this chap in all the gear, blood clenched, I thought, I'll go and see that. And I'm not opposed to spending money on a bit of a whim, because it's R&D, you know yourself. Everything's R&D. Everything you see is R&D.
We steal from everything.
Exactly. Beg, borrow, steal. Mentality.
Good. We don't have a lot of time left.
What? How dare you?
I would like to end on some Edinburgh stories, if you have any. Because I know you're very funny.
Yes.
So hit us.
So I will tell you my horrific Edinburgh story, because I like to tell it, and it's not my joke. So I did a night. It was a late night LGBT cabaret, and it's weird. I did this regular comedy night went down really well, and then did that night and kind of bombed oddly. But the headliner was quite drunk. This was 2:30 in the morning. And I am going to tell their joke, so if they're watching, I'm very sorry, but bear with me. They did this joke. So basically, this is about, I know I'm rambling. So they were sort of seeing how far they could push the audience. And they came on, did maybe a minute and a half, and got some really negative reactions to if you think that's crude, I'll give you my crude stuff. So rather than reading the room and maybe doing a set appropriate, they started banging these really, really, really horrific jokes. And his last routine, he did a story about his partner had recently passed away, and he'd gotten cremated. So he's like, my boyfriend's died, I've got him cremated, and I asked my local takeaway to put him into a curry. So I'm going to eat that curry so he can drip out my arse one more time.
Oh.
And that was the end of his set. That was the end of his, and he walked off stage, and the compere came back on and went, "Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming." And all of us were just like, And then I told this story to a friend of mine. He's like, yeah, it's Edinburgh, mate. It's what happens. It's Edinburgh. It's just Edinburgh. So I always said it's just Edinburgh. But yeah, that is my horrific. I know. But that's the thing about it. There's no quality control. There's no reading a room. He went, if you think that's filthy, I'll give you my filthy stuff.
So maybe it was cathartic for him to do that, though, to kind of like get that opposing.
No, I think that's pure. Like, the audience is not with me, so I'm just going to go for it.
There's a choice. It's a choice as a performer. You know yourself. It's like the street theatre stuff. If someone doesn't want to play, they don't want to play.
You walk along.
Move on. You don't stand there going, I'm going to make you play because it's street theatre. If an audience isn't with you, you don't crack out your really offensive stuff. If the audience were with him, it would have gone down really well. Because the audience wasn't with him, it just got really awkward and it killed the night dead in its tracks.
Thank you very much for being here
No
with
worries,
us.
anytime.
That was an amazing story to end it on. Thank you all for watching. We had great fun this podcast, like we knew we would. Hopefully we'll be able to keep this going and have as many episodes as possible. Please remember, next time we're talking about horse heads, severed ones. Should they be in people's beds or not? Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.